This is Gemara Baba Basra, Daf Lamid Test. We pick it up at the very bottom of Lameches Amid Beis, and after explaining that the way to ensure that someone else does not make a macha on your field is, incorrect. Not make a chazaka and live in your field is to make a macha. So says the Gemara, how is such a macha made? Hechi dami macha. How is a macha made? 3 lines from the bottom of Lamed Ches Amud Aleph base. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Zvid, Plani gazalno. Says Rav Zvid, if someone tells to Eidim, such a guy is a gazlan, lo yahave macha. That is not a macha. If he says, Plani gazalna have tenakala la'ari begazlonisa, and this guy is a gazlan and he's taken possession of this field as in an act of gzela, ulamachar, as we turn over to Lamites Amud Aleph, ulamachar, and he tells the Eidim, and tomorrow, Tavana le bedina, I'm going to take him to court. Such is, yes, a chazak, macha, have a macha. So again, it does not suffice to merely say this guy is a gazlan. He has to explain, and I plan on taking him to court. Says the Gemara, Amar, if he said to Eidim, Loi temrulei, don't tell him that I'm protesting him being there. As Rashi about the Rashbam, about 12 lines into the narrow line, says, Amar le'edim, Loi temrulei, don't tell him machazu. What is the halacha in such a case? Amar Rav Zvid, Hakamer Loi temrulei. He said not to tell them. So then, of course, what's the macha? It's pointless. He's screaming, but he's saying not to tell anyone. Whereas Rav Papa Amar, no. Says Rav Papa, don't tell him, but tell others. And therefore, he'll eventually find out. Why? The classical rule that we've seen so many times, Chavracha, Chavra, Islay, Chavra, de Chavra, Chavra, Islay, he'll eventually find out. And therefore says Rav Papa, it is a good macha. Amrulei, lo amrinan lei. Another case. What if he says to the Eidim, lo amrinan lei? Excuse me, I skipped. Chavra islay. Chavra de chavra islay. Amr lo. Lo tevich lei shuta. Yeah, excuse me, I did skip. Amr lei, lo amrinan lei. If the Eidim said, we're not going to tell him, Amr lei, lo amrinan lei. Excuse me. The guy making the macha told Eidim. And the Eidim said, we're not telling the guy in the field. What is the din in this case? Amar Azvid, he said they're not going to tell Amrina le. Rapapa Amar, no, he meant he's not going to tell the guy. And therefore, of course, Chavra Islay, Chavra Islay. And the third case, in the third case, if the one making the macha said to the Eidim, nothing shall leave your mouth. Lo tepik l'chashut, and nothing about my macha shall leave your mouth. Amar Rav Zvid, hakamar lo tepik l'chashuta. Again, Rav Zvid always going with literally what the guy said. If the guy said, don't tell anyone about the macha, so he said, excuse me, don't let the words leave your mouth. Amrulei, that's what he told them. Amar Rapapa, Kamerle lo mafkinu shuta. Says Rapapa, he said, word of the protest should not leave your mouth, and therefore he's not going to hear about it. Rav Huna, no, I read it wrong. I apologize. Go back for a moment. I read that completely incorrectly. Rav Zvid, Amar Rav Zvid, Kamerle tebel choshuta. Meaning in this case, Rav Zvid says, no word of the protest should leave your mouth, and therefore it's not going to work. And a fourth case, meaning in this case is confusing, our Papa didn't weigh in. A fourth case, we're 13 lines down, Amrulei, the first 2 words. Amrulei lo mafkinon shuta. If the Eidim said nothing, meaning the person making the macha didn't say anything, but the Eidim said, we're not going to tell anyone. Amar Papa, Hakamrule, they said, Lom of Kinashutam. No word of it is going to leave their mouth. So, of course, not a good macham. Ravuna Breder Yeshua Amar, Kol Milsad Lorami Ale De Inshi Amar La Valav Adaite. Anything that was not told to be kept in confidence will not. And therefore, even in this case, where the Eidim say we're not going to tell anyone, says Rav Huna Rebbe Yeshua, that's not the way people work. And they're going to eventually talk about it, and therefore it is a good macha. To go back for one moment in the third case, where the guy making the macha said to the Eidim, don't let a word of it leave your mouth. In this case, the difference is he didn't tell them, don't say it. He said the word should not leave your mouth. So in this case, Rav Papa didn't comment because Rav Papa would agree, even in this case, it's a good macha because he didn't say explicitly not to leave your mouth. And continues the Gemara, the two dots, 10 lines from the wide lines. Amar Rava, Amar Rav Nachman, macha shaloi befanav, have macha. Going back to that which we said, that a macha, even not in the presence of the person that's occupying the field, is considered a good macha. Rav Nachman Amar Rav Yehuda lo yamru shaloi shanim el kedei sheibas pamya v'yachzei shanim v'yelech v'yodeo shanim v'yavel shana acheres. What's the whole purpose of a 3-year chazakah? So 1 year, you hear about it, you got to come back, you got to make the macha, and you got to go back. And therefore, clearly it has to be b'fanav. If you're going to tell me, like you, Rav Nachman, that what macha shel b'fanav, have macha, lamli l'meisav, hasam aduchte l'michi, let him protest wherever he is. A kasha that we've seen already. If you could protest wherever you are, so why do we need to give you 3 years to come back and make the macha? Macha shel b'fanav is a good macha. Says the Gemara, Hasam, Eitza Taiva Kamashmalan. Rav Yudah is giving advice that what? In Esav and Ishkal Ara, Uperi, so that he could go back and make a claim on the land and the peiros. Meaning, in reality, Be'etzem, Rav Yudah might be maskim. You could make a macha wherever you are. He's just telling you want to be able to get back your land and your peiros. It makes the most sense to come back and make the macha. Says the Gemara in the last narrow line, from the kasha of Rava. Again, it was Eisvei Rava l'Rav Nachman about macha shloi b'fanav. Says the Gemara, from the fact that Rava is the one that's asking the kasha, we could infer michlal on the first wide line to lo svirle. It would seem that Rava himself doesn't hold the Rav Nachman, the macha shlo b'fanav have macha. It would sound like Rava argues, and he would say it's not a good macha. But ask the Gemara on Rava himself. My Rava on the second wide line, macha shlo b'fanav have macha. Says the Gemara, Basra deshame me Rav Nachman. Savra, he thought about it, and he was maskim to Rav Nachman, and that's why Rava said elsewhere, macha shel b'fanav, have macha. Continues the Gemara on the third wide line, the dinim of macha, shkechet Rav Yosef, Rav Chanina, Talmid Rav Yechon, Amar leho, mi Amar Rav Yechon, as Rav Yechon really say, macha b'kama. To Rav Yechon teach us how many people have to see the macha in order to be considered a macha. Says the Gemara machlekes, where you have to be meicha protest for 2 or 3 people. Suggests the Gemara lema b'dirabba bar Rav Huna kamifli. Maybe this machlekes 2 or 3 people is machlekes within Rabba Rav Huna. Dama Rabba Rav Huna on the last line. Kamil sadimis amra b'abeit lasa. Anything that is told over, the famous Yisayid of Abeit Lasa, anything that's sold over to 3 people, as we turn over to Lamitesa Mid Beis, Les Pei Misham Lishna Bisha. There's no problem of Lashon Hara once 3 people know about it. Why? As the Rashbam speaks out, the Rashbam partially speaks out, because once 3 people know about it, everyone will know about it. So according to Man Damar, that says 3 is going with such an opinion that 3 people make something public knowledge. Man Damar bifnei shnayim lesle de Rabbi Rav Huna. It doesn't hold this din of Rabbi Rav Huna. It doesn't hold of din of Rabbi Rav Huna. Man Damar bifnei gimel isle de Rabbi Rav Huna. I read this wrong. Excuse me. That's the din of Rabbi Rav Huna. So now says the Gemara, Man Damar bifnei shnayim lesle de Rabbi Huna. Man Damar bifnei gimel isle de Rabbi Rav Huna. 2 and 3 are arguing within Rabbi Rav Huna. Says the Gemara, Loi, Tekule Alma on the third line of Lametesa Mebeis, Eslud Rabbi Rav Huna. No one argues. Everyone agrees that once something is said over in front of 3 people, everyone knows about it. So what's the machlokes over here with regard to macha? V'haka mifligi. Man damar v'nei shnayim kasavar macha shloi b'fanav. Man damar that says 2 people holds macha shloi b'fanav loi have a macha. According to the Mandamar that says you have to do it in front of 2 people, holds machashla b'fanav is not a good macha, and therefore he has to do it in front of 2 people. Meaning, because he holds machashla b'fanav doesn't work. So it didn't have to be b'fanav. If it didn't have to be b'fanav, then you need 2 eidim to testify that he indeed was meicha. Whereas the Mandamar that says you need 3 people to hold, you can even be meicha shaloi b'fanav, and therefore, what do you need the 3 people? To go and spread it, that everyone should know about it. So the Gemara is saying, everyone really agrees the news spreads in front of 3. The question is, if you hold it, you have to do it in front of the person, then you'll need 3 people, because the guy's going to have to be here. So then 2 Eidim will suffice. Teretz number 1. Teretz number 2, Ibai Yisayim with the Kulam HaChashal b'fanav Havei Macha. V'hachabak Mevli Madav of Nebei Savar. Sa'adusa be'inon. It's a good machashal b'fanav, therefore he doesn't need eidim. After they give him a kasavar glui milsa be'inam, you don't just need eidim. You need to, everyone should know about it, and therefore you need 3 people. Says the Gemara, smack in middle of Lametesam and Beis. First line is be'inan. Gedol bar min yumi havale mechiyuta lemechuyei. He had a protest he had to make. Someone was in his field. He had to make a protest. What did he do? Ashkachenu l'Ravuna l'Achia barav. Rav Chalkaya bar Tuvi found Rav Huna, Chia barav, Rav Chalkaya bar Tuvi. Davi Yasvi, they were sitting down. Umacha b'kamayu, and he said, "Their macha l'shana." The next year, Hadar asalim mechuyei. He came and he once again made the macha. Amar lei. So they said to him, "Loisarichta, what are you doing? You don't have to already make another macha. You already made a macha." Halchei amarav, because Rav has taught us, Kivin shamicha shana rishayna. Because you don't have to make a macha anymore. And some say, because you don't have to be meicha at all. So Amar Ishlakish Misham Bar Kapara v'Sarach Limchas b'Sayv Kol Gimel v'Gimel. But you do have to make a protest every 3 years. Why? Because if you're required for 3 years, then I'll create a chazaka for the person being in the field. Tayi bar Rav Yechanan argued. Said, Chazlan Yeshlai. Chazaka. Can a Gazlan create a chazaka? Meaning, once I make a macha against this guy in my field, who cares if he's there for another 3 years? He's clearly a Gazlan. Says we're Gazlan. What do you mean that he's a Gazlan? All he did was he made a macha. We don't have a proof that he's a Gazlan. Like a Gazlan, he's like a Gazlan. And Yesh chazaka, Yeshev chazaka, and Amar Rava Helchasa. Sarach limchas kol gimel v'gimel. He's only kid Gazlan, and therefore he does have to indeed make a macha every 3 years. And Tani bar kapara, irer chazar v'irer chazar, irer chazar v'irer chazar v'irer. If the original owner asked, he challenged the person living there, and he did it again, and he did it again. Im machmas taina rishayna irer ein loy chazaka v'im lav. You can't keep bringing back the same details again and again. If all the person being ba'ir, being meicha, is bringing back up the original protest, that's not going to work. But if each 3 years it's coming back off of the original one, then it's going to be a good macha. But if each time he's creating new details, then it shows that the macha is nothing, and the person would be able to create a chazaka. Pick it up from here, b'siyata dishmaya.